Welcome to Why'd I Do That? Welcome back. I'm Sarah, that's LaShaunda.
Oh, hey y'all. Hey y'all.
We're doing a proper intro.
At the beginning too, like right off the bat.
Weird.
I haven't done that since like episode like 2.
Where do we go from here?
Well, my bodacious co-host.
Now we're going back into that.
Oh, guys, Sarah got me a birthday card and she had so many adjectives in it. It made me so happy. It was a really pretty purple, like sparkly, fantastic.
It was very LaShaunda.
It was the whole thing. Okay, so guys, here's the thing. I received a facial mist.
Oh, yes.
I have been misting the Dickens out of
It's like every maybe probably 5 times a day I get a message that says I just missed it. Eventually she's gonna get to the point where she doesn't need to let me know every time, but
it's exciting. The first my birthday when I did my makeup and she was like, oh, she said she uses that after her makeup.
Yeah.
So I think I sent you a snap. I was like, psst.
Yeah, it is nice.
It's good. Sometimes I wake up in the morning, I wash my face, I brush my teeth, I come back to my bed and I mist. Mm-hmm. And then I feel good.
You're gonna run out of it by the time you need it.
You know what's
when
funny?
It gets hot.
I said that to myself, but I'm like, yeah, but then I'm sure they show them in stores. I'm like, okay, but that's not the point.
Of course they sell them in stores. They just cost money. That's the stopper.
Oh, but I love it.
Yeah.
I genuinely love it.
It is nice.
Chris comes home from work and I'm like, oh, I want to show you what Sarah got me. And so I'm like, can you close your eyes?
Oh, yeah.
He's like, what? I have to close my eyes. I'm like, just do it. Mm-hmm. So he closes his eyes and I'm like, psst. He's like, oh, what is that? And I'm like, so I jokingly was like, oh, it's to bleach your skin. So if you guys don't know, there are products that basically make your skin lighter as a darker skinned person. It's called a bleach, whatever. So I told him that that's what it was and that's what it was for. Now, Chris is already not fair, but he's super, I always make fun of him being a little light skinned or whatever, but he's just brown skin or whatever. So, so then he got all mad. He's like, I'm not into that. Da, da, da. And I'm just like, you really think I am? So I'm like,
or that kidding. Sarah would buy you a bleaching product being like, hint, hint, bitch.
It's like water in just a mist form. It's just hydrating and it feels nice. And it's the literal action of you raising your hand, squeezing the button, and moving your hand around just makes you feel good.
He's like, she paid money for this?
He didn't understand. And then I was like, sometimes I said, do you want a mist? He'd be like,
he's like, no, keep that shit away from me. I know, men don't get it.
They don't. And then he bugged me one day when I was misting because he was making fun of me about it. And then because he's bald, so I misted the back of his head.
He must get cold. I feel like hair keeps a lot of your body heat in.
I think that's why when he sleeps, he always likes to put a pillow over his head.
Really?
Yeah.
He should wear a hat. There was
He always wears hats.
Does he? There was a period of time, not that Ahmed's bald, he has tons of hair, but where it was before he cut his hair. So his hair was a little unruly. So he would literally keep a toque on all the time. And we started dating in the winter. So he would it was reasonable to be wearing a toque at that time. And he would, sorry, Dad, he would get naked. He would take his clothes off and put his fucking toque back on. And then I was like, no, we're not doing this.
You know what that reminds me of? Friggin' Dale Gribble from King of the Hill.
Oh, with his hat.
With his hat,
He's got the bald spot on the top.
He would I remember one episode I saw recently, him and Nancy had sex, and then he's getting up out of the bed in a G-string and his hat and lights a cigarette, and he's walking off. Yeah. And it doesn't matter, he will have his hat on.
Yeah, Ahmed would be like hat and socks. This is not hot. Maybe further into the relationship, this will be acceptable. We're right in the beginning, and I don't love it.
I feel like we got into that comfort stage rather quick.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a lot of things. Well, I think I did have a first, but I don't know if I want to admit this on air. but I'll tell you anyway.
And then I will make an executive decision of whether or not to include it. Whether or not I want to embarrass the shit out of you.
So on the weekend, I was laying there. We took too long to eat, so you get like the bubbles in your tummy.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like,
I get so grumpy, and then I'll be like, I don't want to eat anymore.
yeah.
Never mind.
You just said. I'm like, I know, but I don't know. So what do you? Oh, babes, don't want to do this anymore.
I'm like, you just pick what you want, and then I'll look and I'll decide if there's something that I want there or not.
Yes. So after we ended up having Church's chicken, so after I was just like harassing him. He's laying on the bed, and I was like laying on him, and then I was like, oh, I have to poop. And he's like, so poop. And I'm like right here though. And like normally I'll like try to like, like you try to like sneak it. This one I bold-facedly was like, all right.
Here she comes.
It was like a
batten down the hatches.
Yeah. And then this stupid guy, he's like, oh.
Ew.
I'm like, you can't even smell anything. It doesn't smell. And then he's like, what? And I'm like, it doesn't smell. Don't do that. It doesn't even smell. It didn't smell, to be fair.
Sounds like it did.
It didn't. I was right there.
Maybe you're immune to your own scents. Or maybe he just like imagined it.
He was just bugging me because I'm telling you, it didn't smell.
Yeah,
there you go.
The other night kept being like, I'm gonna shit the bed all night or whatever. Yeah, when we talk about farting in bed, he calls it shitting the bed for some reason. I'm gonna shit myself all night, or I'm gonna shit the bed all night or whatever. And then he like falls asleep. I'm like lying there, and there's this like noise, and I'm like, what was that? And I'm just like lying there being like, I don't know what it was. And then again, I hear it. And then I felt like a little bit of a vibration in the bed. And I was like, oh yeah, he did say he was going to shit the bed all night. I was like, I'll just turn this way.
I don't care. Chris let one go, and I ran for my life.
Yeah.
I couldn't deal.
Only one time did he have a really stinky fart, and he was lying between me and the fan.
Oh my God.
So I'm sitting there. He thought he was being secretive about it. I didn't hear it. And then all of a sudden I was just like, oh my God. I was like, it blew into my face.
Because the fan is there.
Yeah.
He did it right in front of the TV there. I was on the bed here. Yeah. So it was a specific, and the fan was rotating.
You're like, I'm not,
so
you're
I
not
was
alone.
like, oh my gosh, I know it's going to hit. I just don't know when. So I braced myself, and then you try to be slow because I'm like, I don't want to breathe in my mouth. So I'm like, your breath is like shaky. I'm like,
trying to take the least breath in.
Listen, guys, for me to run, something triggered me. I gazelle leapt out of bed, and zebra ran into the bathroom and shut the door.
Like gagging along the way.
I'm like, get that spray! He's like, the spray is done. I'm like, light a candle!
The spray is done. You're like, all right, then burn the house down, I guess.
I literally came, I sat at my desk. He's like, come. I'm like, is it safe? I don't trust it. I do not trust it. What did I ask him for too? And then I was like, can you pass me whatever? I don't remember what it was. And then he's like, I'm like, I'm not coming in there. I don't feel comfortable yet. I don't think it's safe.
Comfortable. Someone messaged me and was like, I love how Shaunda says comfortable. I'm like, oh yes, the comfort table.
When I'm at work, sometimes I literally have to be like, oh, comfortable. Comfortable.
I still can't say it,
comfortable. Comfortable? Is that it?
Yeah.
It feels weird in my mouth.
Comfortable.
Like that. Comfortable.
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 Like convertible. Now we've got all the fart talk out. What's your story today?
I do have a particular doozy for you today.
Okay.
Now, I had to take my time. First of all, trigger warning, because it's gross.
Oh, great.
I will specifically tell you which part really was, I was just like, are you effing kidding me? Anywho, have you heard of Issei Sagawa?
I have heard that name.
I've sent it to you on Snapchat.
Oh, okay.
That's where I learned about him.
Okay.
And then finally now. He's one of those ones that I was like, oh, I don't want to do it because it's gross.
Yeah.
But I was like, let me give you guys a gross stuff because I know you sickos like
For episode 49. Next one's 50. I'm going to have to do a good one.
Oh, yeah. Ooh.
So anyway, Issei, what did he say?
Oh.
Thank you.
You know I love the good wordplay. It's good. I like that. So Issei Sagawa was born prematurely on April the 26th, 1949 in Kobe, Japan. And doctors were actually pretty certain that he wasn't going to survive.
Oh, okay.
But obviously he did to do gross stuff.
Great.
So he was so small that he fit in the palm of his father's hand. And Issei's father was Akira Sagawa, who was an established businessman and president of Kurita Water Industries, which is like a water treatment chemical company.
Okay.
His family was quite well off. When he was a baby, he came down with enteritis.
Okay.
And that is a disease of inflammation in the small intestine. He did receive treatment. He recovered. All was well.
Oh.
So he grew into a really small boy. He was actually always very small, frail. He was just a small, stupid guy.
Not because of his smallness.
It's because of what he
Because of his
did.
actions.
Yes. But he actually said that he had an amazing childhood with parents who loved him deeply. They raised him around nature, and he just really talked about the fact that he had just an overall loving environment, which is quite different from a lot of the people that we talk about here.
Okay.
It's always like some type of, this one was abused, and that happened, and head traumas, and he starts fires. And
Right.
does
So no
all this
excuse
stuff.
here.
No excuse here.
No excuse, no sympathy.
However, as a young boy, he developed a strong interest in literature.
Okay.
I'm going somewhere with this. And he does pursue that at a later time. Sex is not really a talked about subject. It was something that's seen as almost like dirty, and like it was back in Japan, it was back in the 50s and, you know, all that. So he said that when he got his first erection, he thought that he was sick and he was extremely embarrassed. Like it was a very like, almost like a deplorable moment for him, you know? And then he said that he also didn't know how to masturbate.
Okay.
Let me just also say, we're going to go a weird place. We're going to go weird places
All
with
right.
this. Yeah. All right, jumping back in here. He sort of resorted to some interesting things because, like I said, he didn't know what he was doing there.
Oh, okay.
And now I'm going to say how he said it because I didn't really know what it exactly meant that he did.
Okay.
But he said that he made his dog lick it off.
Oh, no.
So I don't know what that, and that's a direct quote.
Gross.
But that's, I guess, how he took care of his situation.
Yucky.
So it was around that time that his desires kind of started to begin to like warp and become quite perverse. And his true desire was to cannibalize a woman or women. Don't know how you get from dogs to cannibals, but that's the trip he went on. So it was in the first grade that he described having a fascination with a handsome boy and seeing his thigh and having a desire to eat it. He was very shy. He couldn't really talk to girls. And then he also said that once when he had tried to speak to his crush, he nearly threw up. But when he saw her, quoting here, pale thighs coming out of her skirt, he just wanted to taste her flesh.
Wow, how does that happen?
I have no idea.
How old do you think he was at that time?
That was grade 1, so he must have been, yeah. Sorry. When he first saw the boy's thighs, that was in grade 1. So I'm assuming this isn't too far after.
That's crazy. So what are you, in grade 1, you're like 5, 6 years old?
Yeah, so either way, I'd say he's under 10 here.
That's so weird.
Yeah. I don't, especially because he was saying that sex wasn't a topic that was discussed.
Yeah.
I feel like as you're growing up and then you start having like your natural like urges or whatever, how would you know to like take it there? Because you didn't even know how to masturbate. So how are you getting a sexual urge to eat somebody?
I don't know. Yeah, like how would you even know it was a sexual urge?
I
guess
don't
it would
know.
like the thought of it, I guess, would give you like an erection or something.
And then he'd use the dog.
It's Gross.
All right, so we're going to skip ahead a little bit here. So he receives his master's degree from Kwansei Gakuin University in English Literature. And he also attended Waco University in Tokyo. So I also wanted to mention he had like a little bit of a thing for foreign women. He was very short. He was 4'9", just about. And he loved how tall they were and how like almost like statuesque they were.
Oh, okay.
With the pale skin and all that.
Right.
We're going to circle back there too.
So, white women.
Yeah. I was safe.
Right. I'll just keep going tanning.
So, at 24, while attending school, he saw a tall, blonde German woman who he decided to follow home one night. So he was sure that she lived in his grandmother's old apartment. So he breaks into the apartment, and she happened to be there asleep naked. So he had the intention of cannibalizing her while she was sleeping. And he was basically going to just get a knife, and then he was going to slice off a piece of her thigh and then like take it home and like, have his fun.
She'd probably notice.
Well, I don't know how he thought that was going to work, but that's what he wanted.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think I said thigh. It was supposed to be a slice of her butt meat.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. That's a later person.
Oh, great.
But she woke up when he tried to creep by her because his knees touched her chest. I don't really know how the arranged. I was trying to think about it, like how would his knees touch her chest?
Oh, maybe he was like leaning over her.
Oh yeah, could be. Maybe that, yeah. But she woke up and then she starts screaming and she jumps him, and basically she was able to push him to the ground, and he was caught and charged with attempted rape.
Oh, wow.
He never actually admitted what his true intentions were. But then he also did make a comment saying that the doctors did not view it as cannibalism.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if he said something, but didn't say it in like an official capacity.
Maybe.
You know?
He's like, yes, rape. That's what I was wanting to do.
Well, rape before or after her being dead.
Ew.
Well, foreshadow.
Oh, no.
So
I was hoping there wasn't going to be any sexual component to this.
the whole thing is his sexual desires. It's just a weird sexual desire. So remember, his dad has money, so he paid a settlement to the victim in order for all the charges to be dropped. So that just went away. So on April 26, 1977, on his 28th birthday, he leaves Tokyo and moves to France to study comparative literature at Sorbonne University in Paris. Interestingly, in a true, like, mama knows child fashion, while he was at, like, the airport, I guess, he said that he saw his mom's face and she was very apprehensive. It's almost like she knew something bad was going to happen.
Okay.
And she just, like, the way that she was, like, looking at him, almost like, I don't think you should go. I don't think you should do this, da-da-da-da-da. But obviously he went anyway. So he did mention that, which I thought was kind of interesting. At this time, he did say that he had already committed a crime, but he didn't say specifically what it was. And then when I tried to find it, obviously, if he's not saying, I'm not going to know. But he also said that he was obsessed with cannibalism at this time. And he said it was no longer a desire, but an obligation.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So he admitted, I'm going to quote here, almost every night I would bring a prostitute home and then try to shoot them. But for some reason, my fingers froze up and I couldn't pull the trigger. So he finished his program and then he wanted to take a trip to Greece. So he goes on a luxury boat ride where he's seated at a table with a butcher who explains to him how to butcher meat.
Oh, no.
And I want to add here, after the incident, he wrote that butcher, I didn't find his name, a thank you letter, which was never responded to.
Gross.
Yeah. So on June 11th, 1981, Issei invites his classmate Renee Hartevelt over for dinner, and he made up this kind of excuse that the professor wanted some poetry translated. And then he, in fact, did pick out poetry for them to, like, he made a whole thing of it.
Okay.
So that it actually did seem legit. So it was supposed to be an assignment. Renee arrives, she sits down, and she starts reading through the poetry. So at that time, Issei comes up from behind her with a gun and shoots her in the back of the neck, unaliving her with a rifle.
Great.
And then after, apparently, he fainted in shock, and then he came to, but then he's like, okay, like, I have to do this. I've already killed her.
Fucking
I've
weirdo.
got to do this. So that's when he decides, but first, let me essay the body. And he rapes her.
Lovely.
Yeah. And then he said that he first attempted to bite and tear flesh from her right buttock. But he said that his teeth couldn't really like pierce into the meat to tear it away.
No doubt.
And then it also was hurting his teeth. So his baby teeth.
You poor baby. What the hell? He wants to eat it raw?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Some of it cooked, some of it raw. A whole bunch of variety.
Getting real tired of these cannibals. I'll tell ya.
So he went and he purchased a meat butcher knife with like a curve on it.
Oh, okay.
So that he could, remove and tear away the meat.
Lovely.
So he consumed one of her breasts, her buttocks, her thighs, her face, her neck, and feet. Some of it was cooked, some of it was raw, some of it he placed in the refrigerator for later. He also had to swallow her clitoris whole.
Oh.
Because she was on her period and he didn't like the menstrual blood smell.
What?
Yeah. I don't know. And also that's why he preferred the right butt cheek, because I think he said that he had heard that the left one had some direct line to like the heart or something. He didn't want to deal with all that blood. So he went to the right butt cheek.
First of all. Clitoris, not in the vagina, nowhere near the blood. Secondly,
the cheek, the butt cheek.
Yeah, but you said the clitoris.
Oh, yeah.
Secondly, it would be a rare accomplishment for a man to just find that clitoris.
Swallow it whole. You're stupid.
This is awful.
I told you when I was like, oh, this is so gross.
Very gross. Fucking gross.
And then what pissed me off about this whole thing too is that when I started watching the documentary on it, I didn't even know they were going to show all the pictures as they are. And I saw everything.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my God.
I saw it. And then as I'm watching, it's just like, boom, photo. I was like, oh.
Ooh.
Like, I was actually really pissed off because I didn't want to see. And this freako documented with photo evidence every step of the way.
I can't believe they would put them out there.
Pissed me right off.
That should be reserved for certain websites.
Well, it's a Vice documentary if you guys want to watch it. Yeah, it's all in there.
I'll be watching it later.
Oh, gosh. So he then purchases 2 traveling bags, I guess just suitcases, to remove the body. And he said that June was the hottest month in Paris. And he was afraid of like the body decomposing and the smell and all that. So he's also like, oh, the weight of the body was very hard for his like frail little body to move. Sorry, he just pissing me off. So he's like, the torso was really heavy and hard to cut. And he was trying to like get them into the 2 bags. So he had a cab driver come and assist him with the suitcases. And ironically, you know when there's like heavy like bags or whatever, and people are like, oh, what do you got in there, a dead body?
Yeah.
That's what the cab driver said.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew it.
So then he's like, oh no, it's just filled with books. And so
he's like, that's a lot of blood coming out of those books.
Can you imagine to know that you were like the cabbie that just happened to show up?
You had just like lived in a suitcase with a torso in it and put it in your vehicle and driven it around.
Yeah. I would just,
no, thank you.
Besides myself. So he had the exact area in mind of where he wanted to dispose of the body, and it would be a lake in, I'm going to try here, Bois de Boulogne.
Nice try.
If you want to know, it's this, Bois de Boulogne. Boulogne.
Bois de Boulogne.
Boulogne.
It looks like it's spelled like cologne.
That's why I said balloon.
Balloon.
I was doing like baloney.
Right.
It's spelled similar to
Boys
baloney.
do bologna.
Oh, man.
If you want it phonetically.
That's literally what it is. So because it was around 8 p.m. at the time and the sun was still out, people were still like up and about. So he was kind of looking for like a quiet area where he could dump the bags.
Bolognese. Sorry.
Focus, Sarah, focus.
Dumping the bags.
So he finds a quiet spot and it's like a bit of a slope down. So he pushes the bags down the slope to the lake. And then this deranged man starts noticing there's just a beautiful sunset happening and all the colors. And I feel like he just went into this like euphoric, like it's been done. You know what I mean?
Gross.
And then he's there and he's like, it's like the birds are singing and everything's beautiful. He's in Paris. And then he's snatched out of this moment by somebody screaming. And then he looks and there's a man that is at the bags and is opening the bags.
Like immediately.
And well, he just pushed it down the slope and just was like, oh.
Well, that takes care of that.
Right? It's like, he didn't even get in the water. It's just like,
oh man. World's dumbest criminal.
right? The man hollers up. He's like, oh, are these your bags?
No.
And then he says like, no. But then he said that when he was thinking about it, if he had said yes, then the guy probably would have just like walked off or whatever. But his immediate instinct was just to be like, nope, I don't know, no.
So he wasn't screaming. He was shouting to him like, are these your bags?
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I should have, But yeah, that's what happened.
Thought you meant that he had like the bags had just slid down and opened and then this man was like, ah!
No, I meant like, hey, tu parles sont bons? I don't know. Are these your bags? That's the best it's going to get. So he says no or whatever. And then the man opens the bags and then he starts screaming, like actually screaming at that point, because then he notices that there's a sheet that's covered in blood. And then you can see that there's a foot. I did see the pictures.
Oh.
So then he starts noticing that it's obviously a dead body. So then he starts screaming, murderer! And Issei just runs off, but he's arrested 4 days later.
Oh.
So he's interrogated by 3 psychiatrists, and they all deemed him mentally insane, and he was sent to a criminal psychiatric ward. So his father did provide a lawyer for his defense, and he was held for 2 years awaiting trial, and was held indefinitely by French judge Jean-Louis Bruguière. I think that's how it's pronounced.
Okay.
So the French government was basically just tired of like housing him, feeding him, all of that. So he gets deported back to Japan. And all this happened before he had been able to begin any sort of treatment or anything like that. And he arrived back in Narita, Japan. So now he was in, I'm going to try on this pronunciation, Matsuaza Hospital. And they basically said, okay, he's not insane. He just has a personality disorder. Not specifically which one, but that's what they say. And the psychiatrist also cited that sexual perversion was his sole murder motive.
Okay.
Now, because the French courts had dropped the charges and deported him, the court documents were sealed and they were not released to Japan authorities. So he couldn't legally be detained in Japan. And then he checks himself out of the hospital on August 12th, 1986.
What?
So Issei was off on his own and really struggling to find a job, a source of income. And then he started being contacted by the media to speak about a serial killer that was rampant at that time. And then he was also invited to give interviews and almost be like a guest speaker for various TV shows, articles, things like that. So he goes on to write about 20 books and a whole bunch of essays about his murder and just being like a weird little, like, I didn't really know what to call him, so I kind of put in like a disliked yet liked icon. So then he's approached by a company who created almost like a comic book of the murder. And when you watch the Vice documentary, they kind of splice what he's saying with that comic book.
Oh, okay.
And there's a lot of imagery. Don't eat directly before or after.
Ew.
Yeah, because it's just gross.
It's like a graphic novel?
Kind of. Ugh. And it it just, I don't know, it just really weirded me out. And it got to the point that, and I also, I guess because I was doing so much research on it and I was doing it for hours. So after a while, I literally was just like blocking out, because you have to read all the subtitles because it's all in Japanese. So I kind of just would put my hand over it and just read what is like what he's being said.
Yeah.
Because it's just so much imagery.
Ew.
And I just got so tired of seeing it. And some of it is the real pictures, some of it is drawn pictures, some of it is like reenactments. It was just a lot. It was just a lot.
Gross.
Yeah, it's disgusting. And then he was also asked to paint it, but instead he said he just wanted to paint women. So he decided any women that he thought were truly beautiful, he would paint and then have a management company sell them internationally. So there's people right now with paintings that he painted just hanging up in their house.
Gross.
Yes. Another weird thing, a producer approached him to make a film called Cannibal, in which he was filmed eating like, it just looks like a big ass piece of meat. And I think it's raw, but that was in black and white, but I'm pretty sure it was raw. And then you just see him like eating it, and then he's just like doing it like as if that was the woman. And then he's also doing all kinds of like odd things. They're making fun of like how strong or weak, I should say, he is. They just have him doing a bunch of weird things. And he says that the whole movie was basically him just being made fun of, but still in line with the fact of what he did, murdering and eating the woman.
Fucking deranged.
It's friggin' weird. Oh, sorry. Also, I wanted to point out, they reenacted the Little Red Riding Hood, and they had a girl playing Red Riding Hood, and he was playing the wolf. And then they showed like a little clip of it, and then he's there like, she's like, oh, you have such a small mouth. He's like, oh, I could still eat you. And like, just it was friggin' weird, man. And then my thing is that, it's a sexual thing because nobody's gonna sit there and just watch it. They're gonna watch it almost like a fetish type
That's
movie.
true.
Yeah.
No, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So
How many people are into this fucking shit?
apparently a lot more than you'd think. That's one thing that I learned. And he actually did become sort of like a weird little celebrity, if you will. Like, it was weird. It was very, very weird.
I don't like that.
I don't even. On top of all this, too, he was getting women. Like, he was getting women.
We still have to do that episode about why these people are so deranged
Yeah.
to want these people.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when this part came, too. So he admitted to stealing out of his father's wallet to spend on all of these foreign women. He sold paintings. He sold his brother's cello, just basically to spend on women. So he had the nerve to be like, I didn't learn my lesson chasing Western women. I was like, you ate her, and you murdered her, and you raped her corpse. What did she do to you that you didn't learn your lesson?
Well, and like what lesson is there to learn? You weren't punished.
Exactly. So what are you
learn any
talking
fucking
about?
lesson.
He's just yuck. So in 1993, he meets a German man that would basically introduce him to just a bunch of white women. And he just kept on shelling out the yens. Over and over.
The ends.
Yeah, I thought you'd like that. Until he gets introduced to a woman named Rhonda. She's this tall, sexy white woman with, quote, tasty looking thighs.
Oh, God, not again.
It seemed that he kind of thought Rhonda and her best friend Talia would maybe have like something going on with him. Like it would have gone somewhere, but it never did. And at one point he also thought that they were lesbians, but then Talia ends up having a boyfriend. So it's like a whole thing. But he basically got used to just take on a bunch of trips. So they, either both of them or just one of them would go, and they went to Canada, India, Mexico. But the last trip was to Iceland. Now, I literally was sitting there like, you really traveled and slept beside this man, had this man around. Like, he could have done anything at any point to you on these
like,
vacations.
Does people not know? They know, right?
Well, that's the joke. They did not know. And then I
Oh.
was like, oh, all right. So from what I gather, this man introduced them as kind of like, look, He's just like a doger, you know, you can just use him, have some fun, go on trips. He'll
Right.
pay for it all. Just go.
Right.
So what they would kind of do is like let him take sexy pictures and, you know, kind of almost do like the sexy flirting without actually having sex. He said they never had sex. So when they were on this trip to Iceland, Talia's boyfriend finds out who he is.
Oh.
And then he sends her a fax.
Oh.
He faxed her and said, listen, this is who this is. You need to stay away from this guy.
Wow.
So she promises, like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to tell Rhonda. Don't worry. Obviously, they did. That was the last of it. They never spoke again. He lost contact with them. All that.
Oh, that's good.
So it was at that point that Issei says he was done with Western women and now he's into Japanese women. Because, of course, right?
Right.
So then he signs up to star in a pornographic film, and the actress has no idea who he is. So she is doing like an interview, and then she's asked, like, do you know like what you're doing today or whatever, whatever. And she's like, oh, his name is Mr. Sagawa. I believe he's a writer, and I just have to spend 24 hours with him. And of course, when you spend time with a man, you gotta have sex.
Yeah.
That's kind of just the natural order of things, you know?
That's your obligation as a female.
So then this rat bastard's like, I'm going to have sex with her and then I'm going to tell her who I am and what I've done.
Oh,
He literally planned it out that way.
lovely.
So after they have sex, he pulls out his book, and the book has the full documented pictures of Renee. So then she's looking at it and she's like, this isn't real. Is this real? He's like, yeah. He's like, I did that. I ate her. I really like it. He's like basically telling her like, this is what I'm into, da da da. And then you just kind of see her like cover up her thighs. And then you can see like she's like shifting. She looks like uncomfortable, like scared. But the thing was, the director said you guys have to have sex 3 times. So she still had 2 more to go.
Ew.
And then she does it, finishes out the day. And then afterwards, she's there and she's like crying and she's like, you know, oh, he must have a low self-esteem and, you know, I don't understand how he could want to do that and how he's into that and da 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 da. But then they end up becoming good friends.
Oh my God.
So now that they're like good friends, Issei says that it was that changed his desires towards women. So it's around this time that both of his parents died of different illnesses, but pretty much back to back. And he said that he was in such shock that he couldn't even cry. But then he goes on to say, like basically in a nutshell, that mourning the death of his parents took such a toll on him and he was grieving and it's like he was just so distraught about it. But he couldn't understand why he didn't feel remorseful for what he'd done, considering that's how he felt about his parents' death.
Okay.
Also, he was banned from attending their funerals.
Silver lining.
So at that point, he was just completely alone. He said that he had no one. No one called him. No one visited him. He had nothing. Also, not that this is necessarily a point here, but in the documentary, he was talking about the fact that he hadn't paid rent in like 5 months and he didn't know if he was going to get kicked out. And I think that he had just gone through like all his novelty and then there's nothing left.
Right.
So then it's literally just he's got nothing,
Like
you know?
he had his 15 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So he said that he knew that he was already crazy, but it's like being in such isolation. It's almost like he felt it more, like almost like his demons, he felt more.
Right.
And then his cannibalistic urge, he would try to suppress by masturbating. But then it started to happen where he couldn't come. So his appetite, if you will, keeps growing because he's not able to suppress it with masturbation. So at that point, he then starts to become impotent. And then he can't get it up, can't masturbate, can't do anything. So he starts being a little bit afraid that his cannibalistic urges are going to get out of hand. And then he doesn't want to like do anything because I guess he actually realized that, okay, I'm effed up. I'm trying to not be effed up,
Right.
but I don't know how to not be effed up. So because of all of this, he basically starts to say that it would be much easier for him to just die and that they should have given him the death penalty, that death was his only hope. And then he says that he no longer has an urge to kill, but he wants to be killed. Then he says he wants to be tortured, torn apart while alive by a beautiful woman And that was his current fantasy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So ending it all off here, he died of complications for pneumonia in Tokyo on November 24th, 2022, 73 years old. And you didn't remind me, and I passed the place where I should have said it, but the fact
How would I know?
you just got to throw it in there at some point. But the fat thing was because when the porn star girl was like talking to him or whatever, and then she made a comment being like, you even cut off her breasts. And he was like, but only ate one of them because it was really fatty and he didn't like the taste of it.
Ew.
So for me, I think I wouldn't be his cup of tea.
Well, you got a lot of muscle on you too.
That's true, but you got to get through all the fat.
It would just be a little more dissection.
Well, he also mentioned that when he was cutting into the body, he didn't expect that it was going to be almost like yellow corn looking substance.
Oh.
So then he realized that he had to get through that to get to like the meat.
Right.
And the flesh. He kept calling it flesh and that really bugged me.
Gross.
So he was like really
It's really gross that he was like allowed to make that book and include those photos and sell it and actually like make money off of it. It's fucking disgusting, actually.
and people were actually buying it.
Yeah.
Because if people weren't buying it, people wouldn't be approaching him to do these things.
Is there no laws against things like this?
Apparently not in Japan. I don't know.
Because I know, like, obviously, you can't make money, like, you can't have proceeds from your crime.
But that's here, though. I don't know if that's a thing in Japan.
But at the same
Japanese,
time,
let us know.
but at the same time, like, he wasn't convicted of anything in Japan, and the conviction that he had in Paris or France or whatever was just sort of
Thrown out. Yeah.
So I guess technically there's no conviction, then there's no crime, then you can do it. I don't know. We just took a brief hiatus to watch some of the video so that I can see the photos.
Gosh.
It's really bad.
It's really awful.
It's really bad.
Honestly, if you guys do watch that documentary, I'm telling you right now, it is in the beginning where they just unleash the imagery on
Yeah,
people.
it's just like a bunch of drawings that he's done where he seems to be some type of little red devil. And then they just throw in the real photos.
Yeah, there's no warning.
Just all of a sudden.
Yeah,
And
right
they're
in the beginning.
Very graphic.
And then he tells his story after that point. So if you do watch it, that's a trigger warning. You're welcome.
I hate that he's like just sitting there like so matter-of-factly telling the story.
Just like, oh, like it's a Tuesday.
Yeah.
He does not need to just be roaming around society, reenacting his crime, and getting his rocks off to like his pictures that he has. Why does he even still have them?
Yeah.
And then you're putting it in books. I can't imagine that family, because just knowing all of that, and then anybody can access it, and other people are now getting their rocks off to his sickery.
It's pretty fucking gross though.
Yeah.
Also that France was like, no, we don't want to keep him.
You know what's funny?
Just let him go.
France, I have an issue with you.
Yeah.
That is true too.
That's not cool. Not only did he kill a woman that was like attending school in France, which is like heinous, even though it's not a French citizen, it's still a European citizen. They're going to school there. They should have the same like protections and rights as everybody else.
Exactly.
But then they just like send him back out and he could just do it again. Like he could do it again in France. He could do it again in Japan. He could go anywhere in the world and just do it again because there's just no record of it now.
Plus, his wealthy father kept on trying to like throw money at these problems.
Right.
Like the first time that it happened, you're like, okay, I'll just give you money so this can go away.
Question for you. If you had a son,
Oh boy.
an adult son, and you found out something like this, what would you do?
First, God forbid that should ever happen.
Yeah.
I will pray for you, but I just cannot support you.
Like, would you cut contact?
I think it depends on how he's handled it. This guy was he didn't even see his wrong until the end of his life.
Right.
And then who knows, maybe he knew he was like, okay, I'm about to go on out of here. So maybe I shouldn't have done that.
Right.
But if it's a situation where it's like, look, I was in a very crazy state, however that state was induced, whatever. And I think for me, it's a lot about, are you remorseful?
Right. If it's like an Austin Haroof thing, that frat boy kid thing, that's totally different. In my opinion. Not that that's okay, obviously.
I'm not going to lie. I'm always going to look at you sideways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm always going to have my eyebrow up. Like,
I bring it up because I was listening to, they just did like a 2-hour Dateline episode about Brian Koberger, the guy that killed those 4 college students. And they were talking about how when he got home for the holiday, they said of like at least his sister, but they said like a few or a couple of his family members were like suspicious of him because he was wearing latex gloves at home.
Yeah.
And he had like the same car that they said they were looking for.
Okay.
And he literally lives like 20 minutes away from where they were killed. And I'm assuming there's probably some other weird stuff that his family like knows about him, because they were saying like that the family were suspicious and they even were like going and looking in his car and stuff for evidence.
See, like if it's a situation like that and it's like, like what's really going on here? I think for one, I'm going to do a little digging. I'm going to try to find whatever. You know me, I'm a praying woman. I'll be like, Lord, you're going to have to show me or tell me what's going on here. And that's why we were talking about with dreams and stuff. I dream a lot of stuff. And sometimes that I dream will happen, or sometimes it'll just be like telling me about something, and then it will actually like, go according to whatever situation. That's my course of action. Now, if it comes to be like for him, he actually did do it and all of that, then it's kind of like, again, like I said, are they remorseful? Is there some sort of reason, physical, spiritual, whatever? Is there like almost like an atonement factor? Like, is it like, listen, I'm really sorry. There's this, you know what I mean? Or is it just like, I do it again?
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
yeah.
I needed to.
She looked at me. You know what I mean?
I couldn't jerk off otherwise.
Like, there's factors that would go according to that. He's going to Carnage Island.
Yeah.
I don't care. They'll
destroy him instantly. Day one, he's dead.
But he's gone. I'm sorry. You can't do all that and then have it like he did it like a trophy, you know?
Yeah.
And then it's not even that, actually, really and truly, it's not even that he was remorseful in the end. It just kind of switched. And I've heard of people having that. I think you actually told a story on it where it's like they had that thing where they wanted to be eaten. And that was like a sexual thing for them.
Right.
You know? And like that poor dog, like there's so many victims here.
Yeah, he did sexually molest the dog.
Yeah, like
but the dog was just like, peanut butter again.
But you know what though? I did read a story, because that's just what he says in the interview, but I did read a story that he had sex with the dog.
Oh.
So I don't know. That's why I said I don't know how far it went, but in articles that I've read, he had sex with the dog. But in the interview, in the same documentary just now that I was showing you, he said, lick it off.
I guess that's a sexual act.
Either way, you're
sex.
Yeah, like you're doing stuff that you're not supposed to.
Really creepy.
I told you the story. I couldn't wait to be done with
it.
You know, I almost told you, I'm like, can we record Tuesday? Because I really just wanted to not have to deal with this guy again. Yeah,
that's funny.
Well, that was the story of Issei Sagawa.
Gross story. Good story, not good story. Thanks for sharing that. I do remember you sending me that Snapchat.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Yeah, sounded familiar.
You know what it is, too? I have a bunch of screenshots on my phone of, like, different stories that I've seen that I could do.
Oh, okay.
So when I was trying to decide, I was, like, rummaging through. I was like, oh, this sick bastard.
I just have, like, a notes in my phone that just has a long list of names.
Thanks for coming out. We love you. It's been a slice. Stay safe.
Yes, I don't know what else to add to that. Anyway, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
All right.
Bye.